Okay, so the trees demonstrate phototropism because they kind of grow at an angle, and you could see like there's an open patch of sky, and the trees are growing at an angle to try and reach that patch of sky and get as much sunlight as they can. And that demonstrates positive phototropism as they grow towards light. And then the trees also demonstrate photoperiodism, as most trees in temperate forests shed their leaves during the fall, especially in deciduous forests. So you could see all the trees turn yellow and orange as they're falling off and dying. And that's because determine determine the amount of sunlight that they're getting. And once they realize that fall's approaching, that's their signal, kind of like an internal clock based off of the sun, to drop their leaves. Next up is kin selection. So bears can demonstrate kin selection, as mother bears only hunt with their cubs or relative bears. And this demonstrates how bears work together to support their relatives. And this is an example of kin selection. Moose can demonstrate flight or flight responses, as moose, in response to loud sounds, tend to run away. And recently, with the advent of like hunting and guns, they have a higher chance of running away nowadays than they did in the past. And although this is more of a biotic factor because of guns being involved, they also do like run away from abiotic factors such as trees falling, and that's the natural instinct. There's also territorial markings of deer. So male deer will rub their antlers on trees and bark, and this leaves like their scent and the outer layer of velvet on their horns on the trees. And this marks the area so other animals know that there's a dominant deer in the area, and it acts as a warning of sorts, but it also can be used to attract mates. Finally, we have bees in the bottom right corner, and bees can demonstrate predator warning coloration, as most species of bees have like vivid coloring of either yellow and black stripes or like even like fluorescent blues. And this demonstrates predator warning, as bees use their bright colors to like warn other animals that they have stingers and that they're dangerous.
Yeah. Okay, so next we have the timber wolf, which represents a diurnal animal, and this means that it hunts during the day and it sleeps at night. And then on the contrary, we have a raccoon, which is a nocturnal animal. So the raccoon sleeps during the day and does things at night. So these animals have opposite sleep schedules, and the wolves hunt the raccoons. So raccoons evolved as a result of them having increased fitness of being asleep when the wolves are hunting, so they can avoid predation. And this is in response to biotic factors. Something in response to abiotic factors is that wolves tend to be active during the day and they see better, because they prefer sunlight. And then on the other hand, raccoons are scavengers and favor darkness, which allow them to sneak into areas that predators may rule and scavenge for food. So next we have different species of wolves exhibiting pack behavior. These are the gray wolves. The pack behavior is exhibited by multiple individuals in a species sticking together as one. So wolves do this and travel together. When they travel in packs, it brings advantages, and this allows them to attack larger animals, which they normally would not be able to by themselves. For parent-offspring interaction, we have a mother bear and a son bear. So the bears are very protective with their offspring. Bears go to great extents to protect their offspring, and if something comes close to it, the mother or father bear will respond by being extremely protective and fight the other animal. The mother bear makes sure that her offspring is safe and unstressed at all times, and this is an innate behavior from bears, which is something that they do not learn. It's something that they're born with. Something that is learned is hunting for the young bears. So the mother bears allow their children to mock hunter as practice, so they learn how to hunt prey when they're older. Next, we have a different species of bees exhibiting swarm behavior. So these swarm behavior is when small animals of similar size travel together to the same spot, and bees do this to migrate to new colonies and hives. But when the colony becomes overpopulated, the bees need to migrate to new spots, which leads to a new swarm of bees. Next is taxis and kinesis. So the tree demonstrates taxis, and they move their leaves in order to get maximum sunlight. To stop the leaves from to stop the leaves from blocking light from other plants, the leaves can rotate. They can rotate their leaves in order to maximize the exposed area. And then here we have worms exhibiting kinesis. And once they're exposed to air, they flare randomly in response to the air and light. And this is in an attempt to find their way into the ground.
First, to exhibit herd behavior, we have the deers, and in the bottom left, there are multiple deers, and the deers in the image are sticking together in a herd. In the herd, the deers interact with each other and move to benefit one each other. As they stick in a group, they give each individual more advantages than being solely alone. And as a group, they forage together and live together, and they have more advantages as multiple deer with them than individually. Next, we have coloration of flowers in the bottom right corner. The factors are bees and flower colors. In the image, there are multiple flowers of different colors. The flowers represent the colors represent the pollinators in the flower. Each flower has a different color that represents the flower attracting a different pollinator. And these flowers adapted to attract different pollinators, and each insect is attracted to a certain colored flower, and this is represented by different flower colors in the image. And so all the flowers individually adapted to attract different types of pollinators. Finally, we have courtship and mating with the white-tailed deer in the bottom left. In deers, bucks fight each other to impress female deer who only let the winners mate. This is a form learned of courtship and mating, as all deer follow this pattern by mating by observing other successful deer mates. Additionally, it allows females to select the most fit deer to reproduce with. An innate behavior of courtship is bucks following female deer around before mating. Female deers release chemicals when they're ready to mate, and males follow the female in the scent only until she releases the second scent they do mate. This is an example of innate courtship, as the deers are hardwired to follow the scent.
So for response to our herbivory, we have mule deer in trees. Mule deer eat leaves off the low-hanging branches of the trees, such as sugar maples. In response to the striping of lower level leaves, the trees allocate more energy to use vertical growth and defensive mechanisms. This is a response to herbivore as trees attempt to get their leaves away from herbivores. So for bird songs, we have the red-crested cardinal. And cardinals use these bird songs to communicate and show different behaviors. Females and males, red-crested cardinals use different bird songs to communicate. Female cardinals have elaborate songs signaling to males that they need more food, while males have a more aggressive type of singing to protect their nesting, breeding, and give fear to intruders. These different uses in song type show the difference between male and female cardinals, and they use these songs to communicate with each other in a very unique way. Next, we have coloration between the northern cardinals of the male and the female. The different sexes of cardinals have different coloration, along with the fact that males with brighter red coloration have higher fitness in mating and territory. To distinguish the male and female populations, the male has a bright red coat, while the females have a pale brown coloration. This difference in coloration contributes to the reproduction of cardinals. It is proven that females often choose those with brighter red colors. This shows that coloration directly contributes to the survival of cardinals. Lastly, we have foraging between mason bees and flowers. Bees forage and rely on various regulatory genes and social interactions and communication to systematically forage in an orderly fashion in between the hive. Genes in particular are expressed by the bees when foraging and exposed to stimuli. These expressions influence dopamine levels and expression, helping the bees both forage and communicate with their hives.